I would leave our awesome coach, Praise Fowowe, to introduce today's guest to us. Over to you, Praise.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. If you're in Africa, I am excited to be with us today once again. And we're still in our leadership series, but I just have a quick announcement. We are planning seriously for next year. And I'm happy that the zones are taking shape. I joined the UK and Europe meeting on Friday. They had a session on the educational system in the UK, and it was very, very profound meeting. They found it very useful. Useful education, useful direction by the facilitator of that meeting. I know that North America is having their own meeting, regional meeting next week. And so we are working towards next year. One of the things I want you all to understand is that this is not just an ordinary meeting. You guys are, for lack of a better word, you guys are leaders. You are saviors to the problem of the world. And it's about mentality and how you begin to see yourself from now, right? And so from next year, we are going to be moving to the phase 2 of this House of Saviors, which is basically, getting people into a state where they can collaborate and do things together. I was in Baltimore to go and consult for a faith-based organization that has about 300 people, and I was doing strategy for them on the next 20 years. And one of the things that we created for them is the need for those, because Africans never really do that. So what the model I built for them is the model where everyone who earns less than $40,000 will be put in a group, and they will be mentored by people who already earn $100,000, and ensure that they pull them from 40,000 to 100,000 within the next 2 years. Now, the ones who are earning 100,000 will be mentored by the $500,000 group to move to $500 region within 2 years. And the ones in that community, they had like 2 people who are doing over $1 million. Those ones will help mentor the ones doing $500,000 to the region of that level, because a community becomes very prosperous when everyone is prosperous. And that's why these meetings are very, very critical. The leadership team is meeting. I must appreciate everyone volunteering for leadership over time. Now, in House of Saviors, we have a few units that you need to understand or know about. I'll just quickly talk about it and I'll introduce our speakers. So we have service and impact group already. The teams are working behind the scenes. So we have the immigration team, which is basically membership, induction, onboarding, and placement. New people joining, how to help them, how to know exactly what they are doing, and how to provide support across all our regions. We're already doing that in America. We have citizens welfare, which is about support, outreaches, impact. Because we are saviors, we need to do community programs that can solve problems, feed people if there is hunger, reach out people who are in disaster situation. Number 3, economy and wealth creation. That's a critical unit, which is the unit that will be responsible for training, mentoring, investment, and business directory. That from next year, everyone's business directory, what you do, if you are a member of the house, we have a directory where we can, because we need to keep the wealth within the house, but we will do quality control and standardization to ensure that, nobody's giving substandard. You can't even do substandard products or services here, because we say whatever we do must pass the test of worship unto God, that if it can't be offered to God, we will not offer it to anybody. So the economic team is going to working on a blueprint of how people can become financially wealthy. It's not a Ponzi scheme. Please count us out of all those sow one seed today, get 10,000 tomorrow. We don't do all those kind of things here, right? Wealth is built organically. And so anybody promising you miraculous wealth, that's not this kind of meeting. You can go to other meetings where they promise you all those kind of things. Okay, then we have the media and tech, which is publicity and technology. We have the learning center, which is in search of our research, training, development, including the next generation programs, because some of you are already talking to us about your children. How can we help and blah, blah, blah. So we are thinking about it and event planning and management, which are the people who manage the meeting. Now, you can contact that number. Just send her an SMS or a mail. She will link you up with the leader for the leadership for various groups. Okay, so that I just thought I should mention that, but I will talk more about our plans for next year and our subsequent meetings, even as we get into plans for the new year. Right. I want you to know that all of you are going to become great. There is no doubt about that. Everyone is going to become very mighty in this meeting. You are, whatever nation you are in, you are no longer going to cower and just blend. No, you're going to stand out and stand your ground and innovate solutions for that nation. You'll be indispensable to everywhere you find yourself. That is where we're going. And we're very intentional about it. And that's why we're doing a leadership series. Now, today, I believe that you had a great time with Fisayo. Today we have another thought leader in the house. One of us is one of our leaders in House of Saviors. He's going to continue. We started talking about the attributes of a leader a couple of weeks back. So we have covered certain areas. So we've covered, so far we've covered personal development, personal discovery and ownership and security. We've covered visionary. We've covered service and sacrifice. Fisayo has spoken on respect for others and their potential and love. Today, we move to transformation of leaders into better leaders. And there is one man who I know, the only man I know who carries calculator everywhere he goes, right? When I met him, he carries calculator. And I didn't quite understand why he carries calculator everywhere, until I began to study and I realized that the Jews and many of the top nations is about precision, is about numbers. In fact, if you're a parent here, all this narrative of I don't like math, I don't like numbers, let's perish it. Every child must be taught to love mathematics because there is hope when your child understands precision. So this is one man who analyzed my finances and made me cry because I just saw how weak I was in my financial areas because he analyzed the numbers, and it's one person who believes in organic growth. He believes in patience. I have seen him model it. He's a lecturer at Lagos Business School. I have seen him lead investments, and that's why if any investments comes my way, I just push it to him. Godwin, what do you think? And when he says, praise, don't deal, I don't deal. Please, let's make welcome House of Saviors, our very own Mr. Godwin Umunakwe, as it takes us on today's session. Please, let's go to the chat box and just welcome him, show him some love. Godwin, where are you? Okay, I think I can see him now.
I am here. I am here, praise. If you can hear me, or you may need to unmute me or something.
Yeah, we can hear you now. We can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. Praise. One of the damage you do to me is you overhype me all the time. And I'm going to let it slide, but don't do it again, bro. I'm back here. My name is Godwin. If you can hear me, we can chop knuckle while this is going on. Give me a sign to show that you can hear me very well. Okay, Jeremiah, welcome, BC. Fantastic, fantastic. By the way, I'm going to be going off and on the video to enable me also concentrate on some of the write-ups that I have in different sheets of paper. Pardon me for that, because I got a lot of stuff that I was doing before now. And then peradventure that I get offline, I will get back because I'm currently joined with two different modem just to avert what happened the last time when I was here. So anyone that is working better, I will switch to that if you don't mind. Thank you very much, Fonny Mebase. What we're going to be talking about is one topic that I'm always very scared to talk about. I'm always very scared to talk about this topic because it's a very long journey. Like Praise said, I believe in a very long-term growth. I believe in painstaking organic model. Yeah, albeit that there are so many levels of inorganic growth that I have been involved in as an investment banker, which you can always identify when you have mergers and acquisitions of firms, and then you have a situation where organizations grow organically to a level, but get to a point where they figure they need to have a quantum leap of growth, and then they can grow inorganically by a process called M&A, mergers and acquisition. But that's not what we're going to be talking about today. I'm drawn to talk about transformation of leaders into a better leader. And like I said, peradventure that I'm not going to meet up to your expectation, I want to first apologize ahead of time because I sat into some of the classes last week and upper week, and I listened to some tremendous issues, especially with VC, and I'm wondering whether I'm able to fit into that big shoe. So I'm apologizing ahead of time, peradventure that I'm not able to take you so far, but I believe there is somebody out there, one or two people who will be eager to join me on this journey in a very simplified manner to understanding some of the things I'm going to be talking about today. And if you're that one person, I'm here for you. I'm a student of model. I'm a student of leadership. I'm a student of pattern. And one model that I've been studying for a very long time is one man that is going to be the case study for this discussion. As a matter of fact, after this class, you may well off Google and read more about him. Somebody you know very well. Somebody we all know. But this class today is going to take him as a case study and understand some of the things, simple things he did as a leader. He didn't just lead, but he transformed the people who followed him. And then today, his products and the things he has done, even though he's been dead for a while, he's still transforming the world. And the name of this guy is Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is somebody everybody knows here. He's known by all of us. We probably are using his product currently as we speak. We're using his materials as we speak. But we're going to talk about some of the things that are personal to him and how Apple became an organization today that is one of the largest capitalized firm of over $2 trillion today in the market space. Somebody led that organization. And today, that organization is still moving in the path of that leadership. And that's why that strikes me, to say, how can we as entrepreneurs, as parents, lead a set of tribe that continue to thrive even when we are not there? One of the things that scares me or marvels me, or sometimes I'm upset with this, is the African leadership model, where a man dies, a year two, everything he led, everything he has produced disappears. I don't want to give you examples now, but on the tip of my fingers, I can tell you. I can tell you today, my kids may not even know who is Moshood Abiola. Today, they may not know. I worked in a firm as a banker. My first bank was Citizens Bank. One of these days, I was driving through our head office in Victoria Island. And of course, another bank is there. And then I looked at that spot and I said, this place used to be where I worked. It's no more. Bank is dead and buried. And so many other firms out there today that you can't find anymore. Now the question is, what happened? What happened? Maybe the foundation, maybe the way it was crafted, maybe the way it was given that, maybe providence, maybe it wasn't meant to last. In the course of this discussion, we're going to talk about leadership principles as taught to me when you look at the procedures of a stick shift gear system of a car. I'm going to tell you where some people are gear 1 in leadership, some are gear 2 in leadership, some are gear 3 in leadership, some are gear 4 in leadership, some are gear 5 in leadership. And wherever you are in that part of your leadership journey, they are all leaders. But it's just that you have different zones and different levels that you need to apply. One of the things that strikes me is that transformational leadership was actually coined by a socialist, James Dunton, in 1973. And there are some defining things he made known there that will be form cross of our discussion today. One of them is a process or a system or a leadership model that seek to change existing thought pattern. Let me take it again. A leadership process that tend to change existing thought pattern, techniques, goals for better results. But he concluded by saying, in all this journey of existing thought change, changing the techniques, goals for better results, the final point is for greater good. Greater good. Don't forget, greater good. Now, one of that stood out for me when I read through that definition. It brought it back home to me. I am a church boy. I mean, so many of us grew up in a church environment. We grew up in a church environment, and we saw a lot of stuff that happened there. And today we have so many levels of GOs in our ministries who we will consider leaders today. But at the end of this session, maybe not this class, you will need to begin to ask yourself, are they really leaders? Are they? Or are they just taking a stroll? You know, sometimes you can just be taking a stroll and moving on your path, and people are coming behind you, not from a leadership point of view, but from the fact that they're taking a stroll with you. Because by the time we begin to dissect what transformational leaders must bring to bear to the table, we will redefine the existing thought pattern we have had over time and ask ourselves, are they really leaders? I'm going to hang that here and continue in the discussion. There are action points. I'm going to start discussion with some of the action points. Action points that says, for a transformational leader to come up, there are certain things we must see in the lifestyle, in the qualities. I don't know how many of you that are listening to the video. I mean, it was mind-blowing. You know, I've seen that video a while, but sometimes you look at something again and again, and then you begin to ask if this is the first time you're looking at it. I mean, it opened my eyes to why is lion the leader in the jungle? And then the video talked about, I'm sure it's from Munro, talked about the thinking pattern of a lion, to say, whatever I see out there is a food for me. I don't care how big you are. It's not the biggest, it's not the smartest, not the strongest, but the thought pattern made all the difference. That's one level of a thinking pattern of a transformational leader. You can't separate that from them. Another action point is, what do you see? You know, Steve Jobs, I mean, I was intrigued to say, how did he know where the world was moving into? How did he design products that were not there and saw into the future, and then got men around him who had the same thinking pattern to grow an organization that was going into the future? And how was he able to communicate this vision to the followers in a manner that gave them that insight to say, we can roll with this guy? I'm going to share with you some of those tenets, hopefully, if time permits. That one of the attributes of transformational leaders is the ability to think it, ability to see it, and ability to communicate it to the people. Peradventure, you're listening to the sound of my voice, and you probably don't have a lot of people you're leading, because one of the myths of leadership is to think that every time you are called a leader, there must be 10, 12, 30 people who are doubling for you every day as a leader. No, that's a mistake. You know, sometimes people believe they're not leaders when they have only one person who is following. But let me shock you. The major area of leadership that we're going to talk about Steve Jobs today is he first led himself before he could lead others. He first led himself. Nobody was following. He found a way to lead himself, because you can really not lead others when you have not been able to lead yourself. And that's one area we really need to dwell for a while. We are so much in a hurry to find a space where we'll become head of a unit, head of an organization, lead a church program, lead a unit, lead 4 people, lead 10 people, lead 40, lead 50, lead 100. That's what excites a lot of people. But I'm gonna bust your bubble today. The first level of transformational leadership is thinking it, saying it, communicating it. But all these things you see and communicate may just be to you leading yourself. Because if you have not first led yourself successfully, you will not be able to lead others successfully. Note that, very important. Another aspect of Steve Jobs in communicating his vision, by the way, don't forget, when you Google, you find out that this young man started from a garage. I know if you watch the video, I will also advise you to find, I'm sure a couple of us have watched that video, but you may look at it again, how unkept he looked, or how shabby he looked as a young man. A couple of times he will take his bath and not comb his hair, and then come out to the garage because he has found something he needs to develop. After a while, there was no money to continue the business. He sold his vehicle as first level of financing of that business, because that's something he saw. That's something he believed in. That's something he was working on. And he ran into a friend of his who he brought into the business, and they started leading and doing what they know how to build, which is technology. But let me tell you, everything they did had a long-term perspective. When Praise was talking about, was overhyping me in this class, he mentioned something about organic, that I believe in organic growth. Every organic growth takes time. Every organic growth model takes time. So leadership principles, don't be in a hurry. Precept upon precept, building it. Few of us here who know me very well know I'm heavy on real estate transactions. I love bricks and mortar. I like building. I love putting things together. Even though I'm an investment banker, but I found a model and a way to use my investment banking skills to build enduring asset class, which I have found more enduring in real estate. By the way, if you're here and you're finding your way, I'm gonna veer a little bit out of what this class is, but I'm led that somebody needs to hear this. If you're here and you're asking questions regarding how to get through the inflationary market today, my advice to you is get on into the real estate market, locally or diasporally. I like what some of us are currently doing. Get into that space, because that's one space that I believe in the next 10 years, we survive every depression or every recession that will come, whether we like it or not. Get on it as quickly as if your life depends on it. Please, don't forget I said that. Long-term, transformational goals, transformational leadership is a long-term business. Organic, but takes time. If you look at the trajectory pattern of Steve Jobs and Apple, you will find that these young men took their time, grew this thing in the garage for a very long time. And then they came out and people only saw Apple, but they never knew that this has been growing in a very small way, in a very small space. I don't know what you're building currently today. I don't know what you're leading today that makes it look like there is no movement. I don't know what it is that you're involved in. I don't know your business, what you're currently growing, and you've been doing it for 10 years, and it looks like you're making no movement. I got good news for you, bro. That leadership, if you must transform people, you must take time with it. Take time with it. But one important thing is, who are you attracting to that space? Who are you attracting to that space? You know, one of the things I tell people is that, praise, I've had me say this many times. There is nothing I do alone. Everything that I do, I like to find as many people, like-minded people that can join to do it. If important for adventure in your sector, in your skill set, you're riding alone, I will encourage you to find more people to come on board with you, not to come and join in the business. Have mind people who are your mind colleagues, who join you in your mind, in your thinking for that project. It's very, very important, because transformational leader must bring people along in that journey, because it's a very long time journey. Remember, there's a saying that says, if you want to go fast, you can go alone, but if you want to go far, you can go with people. So you got to make sure there are so many people that are joining you in that game, whatever gig it is you have. But one of the things that must also be a portion of the actual point is trust. Trust. You must establish trust. The people who you're bringing on board must believe in you in a manner that makes them understand that where you're going together. Let me tell you one of the things I've found very funny among people who call themselves leaders. I am praised. We've talked about him a couple of times. And I tell you, I'm reminded of a man. I don't want to go a bit spiritual in this program. I'm reminded of a man who led 12 men. He led 12 men. But something strikes me. At the day somebody was going to betray him and then bring him to be crucified. And the people were looking for him because they couldn't find him. They couldn't find the difference between him and his people he was leading. I don't know where you get what I'm talking about. They got there and they could not find the difference between the leader and the people he led. There was a strong alignment and synchronization of thoughts that they have all become alike. We couldn't differentiate the leader and the lead. I don't know whether that is common to the people you paradigm themselves today as leaders. I'm going to share an example with you. You have a lot of organizations where you have leaders who, the leader of the team, he flies first class when he's traveling with colleagues. Colleagues will fly economy. He's the leader. They will buy a first class ticket for him, and then he will buy economic tickets for his colleagues. But if you think about the 12th man I told you, and look at this, does it look like something that looks alike? One is a transformational leader. Another one is a capitalist leadership. Which one do you really want? They are both okay. I'm not going to condemn any capitalist leadership model because I was raised in that environment and I understand capitalism very much. But you know, there are so many phases and aspects of leaders, but I'm focusing today on business and economic side. You have spiritual leadership, you have social leadership, you have economics leadership, you have family leadership, you have political leadership. Today is not enough to talk about all of them, but the attributes that we are bringing to bear are relevant in each of those leadership models that is available. So which of them excites you? And then you can hold on to that particular one and grow with it. But the one that excites me is the one I'm talking about today. The particular transformational leaders that allows a leader to grow his people like he has grown himself, such that they look alike. Okay, let me give you a typical example. A typical example, say I'm a transformational leader and I'm leading with my people. If we found out that the amount of money we have is not good enough to take everybody on first class, then we all fly economy. Yeah. I mean, what do you say about leaders who are riding on police guided vehicle? The people they are leading are moving on a non-police guided vehicle. The question is it a transformational leader or a capitalist leader? There's nothing wrong with what he has done. Nothing. That's the path he has chosen. But the one I'm talking about here that excites me is the one that allows a transformational leader to align and synchronize with the people he's leading, such that when we show up in a space, we can't find a difference between you and them. That's the one that excites me today. And that's what I'm talking about. And that's the one, and I'm hoping that that one person sitting under the sound of my voice will also get excited about it. Another action point is increasing innovation and creativity. That I will take that last because it's neither here nor there. But one area that I like about is happy followers. Happy followers or employees who are valued and who are excited to join in that team. I'm working in an environment, and I can tell you that I've seen a lot of times when organizations that I work in have leaders who do not have happy employees and who do not have happy colleagues. A typical thing is there, a situation where at the day of paying bonuses, the leaders of the organizations take home fat bonus, and then the people they are leading takes little or nothing. And then they are happy to call themselves leaders. And they're happy to call the employees to ask them to be visionary. They're asking to be passionate about this business. And I'm asking myself, how passionate can they be when you can see the difference between the leader and the led in a simple thing that has to do with paying bonuses? I don't know if you're here right now and you run a business. Let me talk to us directly. You run a business, you are the CEO of the business. And I can see the difference between you, the CEO, and everybody in that business. You live in the choicest places. You drive the best cars, but the people you lead struggle to come to work. I don't want to call that a failure. There's something wrong with that aspect of leadership. Because we must grow our mindset and our thinking pattern to understand that when people come to join you as a follower in where you're going, they become partners in that journey. Partners. I'm a capitalist by nature, by my training. But you know what? I look out for partners who can join me. I can point to you 1, 2, 3, 4 people I've led who have grown to become even bigger than myself. And that for me excites me a lot. So that's the kind of transformational leaders we're talking about. Steve Jobs was a visionary man. He was very creative. He was quite passionate about what he does. But there are qualities that I see in Steve Jobs that I'm going to talk about today. In addition to the things I've mentioned, I don't know when this will stop or when we have question and answer, because I really want to hear from us. Steve Jobs was a meticulous man, surrounded himself with like-minded people who worked together, and he led them in a particular space where all of them agreed to go. That's number one. Visionary. He saw something. He brought people together. He led them in a direction. I don't want to use the word employee. They were all partners. And that's why in the course of this class, you will discover that today, the richest employees of all time in the capitalist world reside in Apple. Somebody saw it. You will find out in this class how the current CEO of Apple, who is an employee, is a billionaire in dollars. So how dare we, who define the fact that you need to leave your business and become an entrepreneur to become wealthy? That's from the pit of hell. It is because the current business model has not shown that employees that have joined an organization can make the best and become wealthy in that organization. And that's the kind of people we need to become. In our endeavors, in the businesses we're running, people don't need to come join your business and they are still looking for another business because you are the only one who derives the most benefit in that business. That's failure of leadership. Complete failure of leadership. Apple was innovative with technology. One of the things they did was to design sleek products, fashion-driven products. Somebody saw that. But they looked into the future and decided that we're going to design something that people will love to carry around. Something that is not just a laptop. Something that is a laptop, but is enshrined in a fashion that allows people to carry it and move around in a manner that gives them some level of comfort. Somebody saw that. Visionary. Apple influences employees and colleagues with a strong, defined hard work mentality. You know, when I started this class, I did tell you about how Steve will wake up in the morning and go to work and not taking his bath. How Steve wake up in the morning and not comb his hair. There was a knack for hard work around him, and everybody around him imbibed that quality of hard working hard, such that it became the pattern and the language of Apple as a team. Transformational leaders must infuse in the mind and behavioral pattern of the people they lead a hard work mentality. I'm going to deviate a bit now and talk about an unsung heroes of our time. If you look at Steve Jobs, we can talk about Apple from now to eternity, but we will not mention the adoptive parents of Steve Jobs. Wow. Something just dropped from my head. You know, and that's one area a lot of us miss it. But adventure, you're listening to me now, and you probably don't have people you're leading. But there is these two boys in your house, your kids, your daughter, your son. You haven't quite led them. You haven't quite found time to infuse in them these things we're teaching. And you're hoping and waiting when 10 people will come to your cycle for you to lead. And then you lose sight. Hey, you lose sight of these two young, innocent children running around your sitting room. You're busy on your laptop. You don't have time for them because they are not in the rise of the kind of leadership that people have taught before. You're thinking you must lead 10 men, you must lead 10 women. Somebody led Steve Jobs, the adoptive parents. Steve was adopted, and they led him. So when we talk about what did he see? No, somebody took time to lead him, to transform him first in his thinking pattern, such that when he sat in that garage, he could see what others could not see. Today, we don't talk about those adoptive parents. But I'm going to challenge you today that those are the people who sowed the seed of what we read today as Apple. Imagine that Steve missed out in that space of adoptive parents. I tell you, there may not have been Apple. May not have been Apple today. So don't feel bad about it. Don't feel bad about it when there are not 10 men, 20 men you're leading, and you're thinking that the leadership principles available out there in the workspace is when you're leading a firm of organization who are designing and innovative systems and creating revenue lines of $1 million, $1.5 million. It may not be you. It may just be something you need to do in the life of those kids that you're leading that will create that stuff that you hoped and dreamt about. So, if you recall, I started this class by saying if you cannot lead yourself properly, you may not be able to lead others well. Another second level is how are you leading your kids? Because somebody invested in the life of Steve Jobs, the adoptive parents, and nobody talks about it. I mean, if I say go Google about them, you probably will not say. You may not see any biography around them. Funny. And somebody forgot that Steve Jobs was patterned by the parents. Patterned. As a matter of fact, the operating system that ran into him was installed by the parents. That's my challenge to you. So whilst we're talking about transformational leadership, I see we are just talking about the world. Do not lose sight of the circle of influence around you. One person, 2, 3. That may just be enough. Because again, I'm reminded of a man who led only 12 men. He did not run an organization that was 250 employees. He never ran an organization that was driven by $1 trillion. He led 12 men. And history has been kind to this man till this moment. So he had men around him, but it was patterned by the operation system that was running inside him. He considered simplicity, functionality, and consumer appeal over sales volume and profit. He was people-oriented. So every transformational leader must be people-oriented. People. I'm reminded of what happens today in African context, where the people we call leaders, they are leaders, man. They only lead themselves, their families, and their friends. They don't give a hoot about anybody. But we celebrate them, give them accolades. But you can't differentiate how they have been able to transform themselves into the life of others. And that's why I'm challenging us today. It will not be enough for us to listen to all the leadership metrics that we have learned in the course of this class and not challenge ourselves to say, in the course of my 10 years of moving, 20 years of moving, can I point to 1, 2, 3 people, one person that I have led in a manner that I'll have allowed the person to look almost like myself? Can I point? It's important we begin to do that. Because let's stop this utopian thinking pattern of saying, I must lead big. No, I must lead in the next 10 years. This is the kind of fame I want to run. I'm an ardent believer of organic growth. What are you doing within the cycle of influence of this small space that you have found yourself? It's important. His innovative product changed the way people do business and the way the world operates today. Transformational leaders are interested in how what they are doing can touch the world. You know, when we say the world, we're not saying something I can touch, leave your comfort zone and touch the global community. If you have such a product, that's fantastic. But can we start from your neighborhood? What exactly are you doing today that are touching your community? What are you involved in today that are influencing your community in a positive manner? That is influencing, where are you serving? Which areas of service are you involved in that are bringing to bear your skill sets, your abilities, your visionary stuff to transform that simple community? Because you must start from there. You don't change the world if you have not changed your community. You're not going to change the world if you're not change your village. You're not going to change the world if you have not first changed your family. You're not going to change the world if you have not first changed yourself. So I'm going inside and say, so you can see the nucleus before you begin to go into the superficial or superflux of areas of changes. You must come inside and begin to touch lives internally. In 2022, we are close to the end of the year. How many people around you today are going to be happy because of how you led? How many families are going to be sure of their 3 square meal today because of how you led? How many friends and family today are excited for how their life has gone better because of you? Let me ask you a very sharp question, because one of the things Steve Jobs had as one quality is he had a knack, an ability to take harsh and hard decisions. I'm sure if you look at some of the things he did, you remember when at some point he was taken out of Apple. I'm not going to bore you with that story, but I want you to go and Google the story and a biography. At some point, Steve Jobs was kicked out of the business and a new guy was brought in. Because they said this guy was too strict. This guy was too cocky. This guy, he has lost his bite. You know, because sometimes your leadership principles are not, they're not what everybody loves. They're not what everybody's excited about. They're not something that is bringing succor to every man. So sometimes you must take a harsh decisions and maybe sometimes kick out people who you have been with for a while and they're not aligning. You just let them go. You know, somebody says Steve Jobs was kicked out, but I said no. Steve Jobs got to a point where he grew bigger than the organization. The organization could no more have him, so they took him out. That was why when the organization started making loss, he had grown. As a matter of fact, Steve Jobs sold a firm that he started outside Apple for $1 billion. And then they brought him back. I said, no, they brought him back. So we're no more making headway. Peradventure, you're sitting on the sound of my voice, and if you fire many times from your friend, I bring good news to you. Sometimes they're not firing because you have a skill set. Sometimes you might have grown above that organization. So count it on joy, because life is giving you an opportunity to do something bigger. You know, I don't know how many times you have found yourself in a circle of people and you discover I don't belong here. Because the kind of leadership that I see, the kind of vision that I see cannot thrive here. Albeit, they may have been in your hood. They may have been your guys, your neighborhood. They may have been guys you grew up with. They may have been people that you've known all your life. But you got to go to a space where you say, I don't belong here anymore. And you got to go. It may be where you worship. I'm sorry. I hope I'm not touching something that you don't want touched, because some of us are so spiritual that they don't want to hear things like this. It may just be that you have outgrown where you worship. May have outgrown where you live. And if you don't leave that space, your leadership abilities are not going to try beyond. Remember the video that talked about the thinking pattern. You will never grow above that. Maybe it's about time you begin to look for new friends. Maybe it's about time you begin to look for new connectivities. Maybe it's even about time you look for another country, like some of us are looking for another country. That's the truth. Some people have outgrown the country of their birth, and they are looking for something bigger. Maybe. So I need you to understand that transformational leaders must get to a point in their life where you begin to ask themselves, what I see, can I get my people around me to see? Sometimes, could even be your family. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. Sometimes your family that are bringing you close and stunting your growth pattern in the leadership abilities that we are teaching on a day-to-day basis, and you love them so much, but we do not realize that this love that you have for this family and friends that had kept you together is your albatross That's what happened to Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was not kicked out of that business. He grew beyond the business. The business could not take him anymore, so they let him go. Maybe somebody out here listening to me need to be let go. It will not make any sense today if you hear all these things and not take a harsh decision. You know, I talked about gears, gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, gear 4, gear 5 for leadership in transformation. Maybe I need to touch it because I'm beginning to get to a point where I need to conclude. I want to make more time for questions and answers, because I tell you, the time we have is not enough to do what we got to do. But again, that's why it's a tribe. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep doing this because I believe in long-term plan. We can do this for another 10 years. I don't mind. But we'll get everybody on board to think the same way, to look the same way, to align. That is a complete synchronization of leadership abilities that we have so we can grow together. I don't want to grow beyond most of what I'm talking about. I want us to grow together. It's important. Gear 1. One of the things about gear 1 is if you know how to drive a stick shift. Gear 1 can only bring out a car from a compound to the road. It doesn't do more than that. So if your leadership ability is a gear 1 leader, it can only take you to the momentum point. It can only give you the eureka. It can get you excited, and that's where it stops. It doesn't do more than that. That's what gear 1 would do to a vehicle. It takes you from a compound to the road. You cannot take it from the road to the express. And that's where you need a gear 2. And for adventure, you don't have a gear 2. You need to begin to align yourself and get to the learning of people who are already operating in gear 2. That's why when praise says something about praise, what we're doing here is more spiritual than physical. You touch some nerves when you say something about $40 people will join a team of $100 people who will lead them to $100 revenue. That's how it works. There is no other shortcut to it. If you're a gear 1 leader and you want to begin to lead at the level of gear 2, you must leave the gear 1 people to join the gear 2 people. That's the only way it works. If not, you will remain a local champion in a neighborhood and you will stop at that spot. So when you get to gear 2 leaders, are people who are excited by their environment, who everybody's excited about them, who are worshipped when they show up in their environment. And that's where they stop. As a matter of fact, gear 2 leaders do not want the people they are leading to get to the truth. And that's what happens in most spiritual environments, where it's only the man of God that knows the truth. As a matter of fact, he's the only one that leads everybody. Nobody ever gets to become like him. Those are the gear 2 people, the gear 2 leaders, the papas and mamas. Everybody must come and dobale. And they will stay at that level for the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, serving at that mundane level. They are the one that carry the bag. There's nothing wrong in carrying the bag of a leader. But let me tell you, we are demystifying all those stupidity that people have used to confuse us in the past, to think that when you become the leader, everybody must come and carry your bag, your hand, they pay you. Like I said, a man left 12 men. He washed their feet. He washed their feet. I don't even know where we got this leadership we're looking at today in Africa, where people think that people who are led are the ones that are downtrodden and they have used. I'm sure you know what we'll talk about weaponization of poverty. That's what has happened in Africa. The so-called leaders have weaponized poverty so that every day you come to beg because you're not meant to grow above them. That's not leadership. That's not the one I'm talking about here. Remember, I'm talking about Steve Jobs. I'm concluding now. There's something about Steve Jobs' organization that excites me. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Because the Peradventure, you run a business. I'm going to show you some of the things that Steve Jobs brought to bear as a transformational leadership in that organization. Google it, go and verify. You can verify what I'm telling you. There's some 9 things that I saw Apple do while Steve Jobs was there. Steve Jobs, even though he died early, the organization transformed into a wellness organization where they currently have one of the best, excellent health insurance scheme in that firm for everybody. They have a time off season where you work and get tired, you get a time off and you go home. It's not a capitalist firm where you must work and die, right? I'm talking about organization. I'm not talking about a church, and it's not a social capital. Today, they are one of the highest capitalized firm. Look at their attributes. Look at their behavior pattern. So you understand that it's not when you put some high level of strictness in your firms that makes you a leader. No. Steve Jobs and Apple had I'm sure you've heard about parental leave. I mean, paternal and maternal leave. I mean, I haven't worked in Nigeria today where he's operating, irrespective of the fact that a lot of Nigerian firms are making billions of nairas in revenue and profitability. They don't have that in place yet. They're not richer than Apple. So what are we talking about? They don't have that in place. So a dad cannot go on paternity leave, but a mom can go on maternity leave. But in Apple, that is in place. Yet, it doesn't make them less rich. It's in the mind. In Apple, there's a free shuttle service. Free shuttle for every staff who live around the office. By the way, you know in Silicon Valley is a very expensive environment. But in Apple, when you walk here, there's a free shuttle to come to work and to go back home. Free. There's a gym credit. Because of their awareness nature, they credit every month to belong to a gym. It's in place. I'm just reading out some of these that you understand what transformational leaders, you must see it in everything they do, especially in the firm that they manage. There are stock options. Stock options is when you work in Apple, after a while, you become a shareholder of Apple. As a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons why Tim Cook, the current CEO of Apple, became one of the richest men today. His net worth is about 1.5 billion, but he's an employee. It's amazing how some of us have been hoodwinked to think that if you want to become wealthy in life, you must become an entrepreneur. I don't know who brought that. If you must become rich in life, you must leave your firm and go and work for yourself. That's a lie. Transformational leaders have grown organization where everybody in that firm has become an entrepreneur because you're partner in that business. Why? Because you have shares in the business. What the hell will you be an entrepreneur if you must leave that company to go start your own firm? How? Who gave that definition? Apple redefined it. Every member of Apple is an entrepreneur because when you come in and you stay a while, you've got a stock option that makes you an owner or a part owner of Apple, and then you can become wealthy working in your business. I'm going to pause a little bit on this. and ask you, what kind of firm are you running? What kind of business are you running? Somebody out there is running a business where even the people who work with you can't even go for a exam leave. They can't even leave to go and take exams. You're not leading them to become the better of themselves. I want to beg you up. After this session, you need to take some harsh decisions, make some changes in your home. I don't know how many of you have gone out in Africa, especially Nigeria, where you go out to an eatery and you can basically see the children of the mom and the house girl. I don't this kind of breaks me. It is something that I've seen consistently, and I'm wondering, where are we from? You can basically know that this is a house help and this is the children. It's not just speaking around the dressing, it's even speaking to what they will eat. And you know one thing that's funny about it, some of them leave church service for those eatery. What exactly are they learning there? What are they teaching them there? The seating arrangement can show you who is the children, who is the house girl. The house girl is probably struggling with strong meat pie. The kids are eating pizza with correct drink. The house girl is probably taking either water or Coke, the meat pie. He's not allowed, she or he is not allowed to join in the table. Do you know what that is doing to that house girl in his or her mind? And that's why I'm more emphatic about leadership of those people around you before you can begin to think about how do you transform people at the bigger level. If you cannot transform at those micro levels, say goodbye to transformational leadership at a bigger level. You must first play local league well before you can go to play Arsenal. That's how it works. In Apple, there is a tuition fee self-improvement reimbursement to the tune of about $5,250 to $10,000. What does that tell me? They're interested in you coming in here and being better than you can. And they are willing. They're not just saying it by their mouth. They're saying, whatever you spend, we will give you this to join. So what it means that if you're in that environment, it's going to be competition for people to out there go to school because the system will reimburse me. But let me tell you one thing. Till date, they are one of the largest capitalized firms. They didn't start that behavior when they were a $2 trillion valuation. Did you get that? Somebody will come and tell you they are doing it because they have money. No, it's in the DNA. It's in their DNA because somebody sold that into the lifeblood of that firm. His name is Steve Jobs. It's important you understand that. The behavioral pattern didn't start when it became, after all, it became a $2 trillion company in 2022. So it's just recent. So when they were still managing 100 and something million, they already had this, but they have grown the business. Why? How did they grow that business? Some of these qualities and behavioral pattern of a transformational leader is what brought that to bear. I'm speaking to somebody here who is in his business. I'm speaking to somebody here who calls himself or herself as an entrepreneur. You may need to redefine or rewrite the model of that business after this event. You may need to rewrite it. If you want to grow and grow big, you need to rewrite it. Rewrite the operating system of that business. It must be people-oriented. You must be ensuring that people around you are being transformed. They offer strong retirement benefits. I don't want to emphasize that. That is common for a lot of organizations. They have product discounts, subsidized rate for everybody who works in this business. And that's some of the things that I really want us to talk about today. You know, in closing, I'm going to reemphasize an aspect of leadership that we have not spoken about for a long time. And it's about parenting. You know, this is not part of the curriculum that I have today because Praise and the team is already doing a fantastic job in that level. But I'm just led to talk about it again. The importance of parenting in the life of Steve Jobs. And every story you read today or you Google on your own that talks about Apple is not complete if you remove parenting. If you remove parenting, like I said earlier, there will not be apple. So my brothers and sisters, it's important today for us to invest a strong realignment in the life of the people God has put in our favor, in our hands to lead. But thankfully, in 2022, this year, America recognized Steve Jobs, and he was awarded a Presidential Medal Award of Freedom for the job he has done in the life of people, because they have recognized that a man came, he saw, he conquered, and he's still conquering. I want to believe you with these few words of mine. I've not confused you, but I've been able to convince you. Like I said, peradventure, I didn't speak in the language that you will really appreciate, because people who have come before has done better job than I have done now. I want to say I'm sorry for not speaking in that way. I've just spoken the way I've been led in my own small way. Thank you for having me, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Oga Will. You have done an amazing, incredible job at this. I don't know why you keep apologizing, because your style is your style, and it's an incredible nugget you have dropped for us today. I have about 2 questions. If you have any question, you can send it to me privately. I would ask him. But there were things you touched on that I want to expatiate a bit more. Maybe within the next 10 minutes, we should be done with the question and answer so that we can go. You talked a lot about trust. One of the things happening in America, among the Black community, especially Nigerian, is that whenever you want to do something, say investment, let us invest together, people are no longer enthusiastic about it, right? And even in the religious circle, when a lot of leaders are struggling, when they say, oh, let us do building project, nobody wants to drop money anymore. And I have started asking questions, and I realized that a lot of people are upset. They've been burnt. They no longer trust leadership. They've seen people say, oh, let me invest for you, let us invest together, and the person has carried the money and run away, bought citizenship elsewhere. Nigeria experienced a lot of that. Somebody is selling Gary, people put their entire life saving. So it's the trust factor is very, very low. How do we deal with this? Because the downside to that problem is people are no longer investing collectively. Everybody now says, let me do it by myself. Even that by yourself, it's also now creating problem, because people are now making mistakes. I mean, in the last 3 weeks, I have had people have lost massive money simply because, they didn't do due diligence. And you can't do due diligence. I mean, there's a limit to the due diligence you can do alone if you are not within a structured group. How do we rebuild this trust factor, especially because it's dealing with us big time? Unfortunately, the Indians don't have that kind of issues. The Jews don't have that kind of issues. The Emiratis don't have that kind of issue. It seems to be a major issue among us, people of the third world. How do we rebuild so that we can help people at a higher level?
Okay, I'm going to take that straight. I mean, praise. We've spoken about few things like this. I'm a student of case studies. I'm going to answer that with also a case study. In recent times, if you recall the project that I ran on, I single-handedly got involved in creating a banking license for an organization after I had left the firm 10 years when I worked in that firm. I left that firm, and then when that organization wanted to get a banking license, they called me back to come and help them get a banking license. I tell people, character is becoming the new asset class. Character is becoming the new asset class. When I teach financial intelligence, I talk about different levels of asset class. You talk about money, talk about real estate, I talk about money market instruments, you talk about stocks, talk about paper. Then the final asset class in that is character, because that is the foundation for every other thing that will happen. Now you say, how do we rebuild? How do we rebuild what you're currently doing today, Praise? But let me tell you, no matter what we do, because in the home front, parenting is lacking. Me and you have character today or trust not because of what we had in our churches, but because some men who call themselves our parents put something else. They put something in us. They grew out in a manner where we could understand that. Look, there's something I always tell you. I say I can never be poor. I don't say that from a cash point of view. I say that from a mental state point of view. So we need to continue to do what we're doing and begin to build a tribe of people who understand that trust and character is the new asset class, such that it makes it easier for you to become wealthy now if you add that asset class to your life. Easier. You know why it's easier? Too many people are going to be asking after you. That's why. So for every time we put together a product offerings that we're going to be managing fund, we will get more subscribed than we will ever wish, because what we say we will do is what we do. When it fails, we return back their money. Today, you can walk into a shop in Africa and go to your house and come back, and they're not going to take it again. But Praise, you know what happens? I mean, in America, you can actually buy the clothes, wear it to a party, and bring it back and collect your money back. What happens there? They trust that whatever you said you will do or what you said is true. Today, those organizations are doing very well. So what we only need to do is keep teaching, keep dealing with people, keep installing this operating system into the mind of people, because the world out there is uninstalling and installing rubbish into the mind of the people. In Africa today, a lot of operating system is installing Yahoo, is installing fraud, is installing all that as the only way to make a veritable money. But me and you must continue to look at people, uninstall those operating systems and install what we are doing today. We keep doing it. We keep doing it. We keep doing it until it becomes the second nature of our people. I'm not losing faith on Africa. Not at all. It's just that people who know best, who know better, are not speaking enough, are not mentoring enough, are not guiding people enough. So the wrong people are the one mentoring. The wrong people are the one talking. The wrong people are the one making all the noise. There is no reason why me and you must not be heard every day by these guys. I think that's one of the building tools that we just need to understand and keep installing it so that people can understand that good character and trust is a new asset class in today's world, and it is not going to change. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'll take two questions. Someone has already sent a question in. That there is a strong wave that America is entering into recession. It's sounding like doom. Some said it's between 2023 and 2024. It's not just America. I think it's a global thing. How do we position ourselves so that recession will favor us instead of against us? That's the person's question. Then I'll take my final question after this person.
Okay. This person is delving into a financial intelligence class. Well, I will touch that Praise. I mentioned it earlier that the instrumentality of being above recession. I've faced recession before. In 2007, 2008, I was a strong investment banker who was trading stocks, and I saw organization. I worked in a firm that had about 12 billion assets, and then we lost almost 11 of that. But let me tell you, one of the things you need to do now is start living below your means as fast as you can. Peradventure, you have things in your closet and you're using, go sell it. Peradventure, you have vehicles in your closet and you're using, often go sell it. Now you need to stockpile cash. You need to stockpile cash. You need to begin to grow your cash reserve. Begin to grow your cash reserve as if tomorrow on a day, because everything that, you're going to see 100,000 houses sell for $10,000 cash. You're going to see asset classes sell for 1/3 of their prices. So what do you do now? Now that you know, it's actually a blessing that people are already talking about it. Before, recession just comes and nobody knows about it. It just shows up. But we are blessed today that people are already anticipating that it will happen in next year. But guess what, praise? They are living the same way they were living. And that's unfortunate. It's like Noah, who is busy building the ark, telling people that there is a particular, God is about to destroy the world with a flood, and we do nothing about it. Now that you know, what do you need to do? Stockpile cash reserve. Live below your means. If a matter of fact, if you were saving 20% before, now is the time to save 50%. Now the time is to live around 25-30%. Live as if you're already in recession. That's the point I'm making. Don't let recession come. Live inside recession now. Begin to live like that. If you need to leave your big apartment, move away. Go to a smaller space. Save money. Save. Because during recession, the only people who will become wealthy are people who have cash reserve. There is no way, there is no other way, because you're going to cherry pick all the best investments for nothing. That's it.
Okay. I think I'll talk to Godwin and a few other people who are in the financial sector within the house. We'll see how we can help people save and maybe invest. Then my final question is, you talked about, there was this wave of retire rich, retire, fire your boss. Now, my reading of it is a lot of people who are very idealistic, they can generate product, but they can't manage a business. And now putting out to go and now start, they don't understand that the administration of a business is a different ballgame entirely. You have to hire accountants, you have to, but part of the challenges they are having, apart from the wrong teaching, is also the fact that many of the business owners are toxic in nature and they cannot stand their people manifesting under them. For example, I know business owners who you can't question, you can't challenge, and so there are people who want to stay, but the person at the end is toxic. The person is not willing to share. So on one hand, you have someone who knows, I want to stay here. I don't mind taking equity, right? But this person never listens. This person is not even seeing me. This person is about me, and not thinking about me. So I'd rather go out and try and hustle. So what has happened is everybody's now building small stuff instead of aggregating our strength to build something massive that can become a conglomerate. How do we defeat this silos mentality, and so that we can aggregate for a common good as against, because I see some people just say they are CEOs and it's just ID card. They don't even understand what CEO means. They don't understand how to run a business. They don't even understand what profit is from turnover and all those kind of things. How do we undo this plague that has destroyed Africa and kept our businesses small?
Oh, praise. You cracked me up when you say CEO is only ID card. There are so many of them. I think, let me take it from the angle that you have a lot of CEOs who have been fortunate to have had a breakthrough in their business, but they are pretty much very toxic, very toxic. I'm a student of apprenticeship, I guess also because of the environment I was born into or the environment I grew up. I'm a typical Anaba boy who grew up in an environment that believes in, if you must become something in life, you must go through apprenticeship, and we're going to sign you up for 10 years. In signing you up for 10 years, you're going to work with a leader who is as toxic as you can ever imagine. You're going to be serving a man who is going to treat you like a slave. You're going to serve a man who you wake up in the morning, early hour morning, you wash the clothes, you go fetch water, you wash the car if he has cars, and then you run to the shop to go open the shop. You're going to go through very strict 10-year lifestyle to now do freedom. Do I is it in line with my transformational leadership class that I've taught? No, it's not in line, but it's in line with it, an aspect of leadership that I've also learned that said a man must serve. Service. You're going to learn how not to run your organization. Because sometimes we can look at that and say, I didn't like how you treated me, but he has taught you how not to treat others. And that's the way I want to look at it. Say, if you haven't see yourself in that environment where it's toxic and you want to run your business and you know that you can't run that business. So what you need to do is to begin to work with, find people who can come along with you. That toxic environment will, of course, not allow you to grow as much as you can, right? But you must begin to find people who you can work with. Don't go alone. Like I said, I don't like people say I run my business. Anytime I hear people say I run my business, I'm put off by that even description that I run my business. It puts me off to say that your mentality is the mentality of a man who must go alone. Even if you're the CEO, you might just have just a portion of that. So I think the mentality for me is, how do we change the mentality of people to begin to look for others as against how do I want to do it myself? Because, praise, you know what? Whatever you seek, you will find. Whatever you seek, you will find. Whatever you attract who you are, you will attract who you are. And whatever you seek, you will find. So the day you make up your mind and say, I am leaving this firm and I'm going to find guys who are like me, who will join with me to run a good business, praise, you will find. But the question is, are you asking those questions? Or are you just saying, I'm leaving this firm to start my own firm? Because when you make that comment, you're right. You will start your own firm. But the day you make the comment to say, I want to start a firm with people, you're right. Also, because you start a firm with other people. That's the way I look at it. It's about your mentality. How have you been tutored to understand these things? That's it.
Thank you very much, Oga Will. Thank you so much for blessing us today. This has been an incredible, incredible meeting. Thank you for always obliging us when we call you, and we hope that you'll come again. Thank you very much. God bless you. Please, let's go to the chat box and celebrate Oga God's will, please. Let's appreciate him. I believe that I'm going to engage him privately. We've been having ongoing conversations on what we can do for the members, and we didn't want to do those things until we have alignment with the way we all think, so that we don't run into trouble. So please, let's appreciate him. Ganiya, over to you.